So, good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in London. Finally feels a little bit like spring, and I am sitting down for tea, for candles, for hugs, for amazing chats with the gorgeous Kirsten. A little bit of an intro to Kirsten. You and I met on the first ever UK ADHD retreat that was run by my wonderful friend Leanne Maskell, who I also went to. I was teaching on it alongside her, so I was a guest teacher on her retreat, and that is how we first met. So this is going back a few years now, right?
Yes, yeah, a couple of years now, and I feel privileged to call you both friends. And that really was the start of a real change in my life and seeing myself in a different way. I just got an ADHD diagnosis and had felt very kind of alien in my family and my life. And suddenly I met all of you, and I was like, oh, I'm home, I'm safe. Um, but yeah, but actually at the same time, my whole life kind of collapsed at that moment as well. And I've been on a bit of a journey and been really grateful that you've been alongside me during a lot of that to get to a
Amazing.
very happy place.
Amazing, amazing. So, Kristen, just a little bit of um, let's just do a little intro. So I know that obviously, you've changed your company, you're starting a new company, but just for those of you, for those gorgeous listeners listening in right now, how would you introduce yourself?
That's really interesting. I was thinking about that before we started, that we always introduce ourselves as something or as a
Hmm.
role. And
Yeah.
there's plenty of ways I could say, I'm a mother of three, or an exited founder. I sold my company last year to a VC and a group of angels. That sounds really weird actually, but angel investors. And um, but at the moment, I kind of describe myself as a poet. So I think we can reinvent ourselves in different ways to different audiences. And I have a podcast as well, and I love talking about ed tech. So I'm so pleased to be here today, with my candles and cup of raspberry tea to just talk about this, the spirituality part of my life, which is really the most important thing and something that, really I've been on a journey with you to deepen and discover. So
Yes. I
yeah.
loved it. And you know what's really wonderful, because first of all, I think I mentioned this when you were here the other day. I started this whole podcast because, you know, the biggest block that normally keeps us stuck in life is that we have this idea that somehow, maybe happiness is for others, but it's not for us. Maybe love is for others, but it's not for us. Maybe other people have amazing life stories, but it's not for us. We have all these sort of, as you know, right? These little whispers, these whispers that tells us what we can and cannot do, who we are not. And what I really wanted to do with this podcast and this platform was just inspire other people. I mean, everyone really, not just a specific group, but through relatability, through relatable stories, and through authentic, wonderful human beings that I have the privilege to come across in my own life, whether that's my personal life, professional life, and everything in between. And so when I met you, you were just one of those people that to me stood out, but stood out in terms of your energy. You just have this beautiful, innovative. I'm always, and I mean, this is in the most beautiful way. Like it's not that it's not an innocence, but you have that childlike joy, that sort of like bubbling, overflowing, like, oh, we could also do it this way, and I just personally love that, and I see myself in that so much, and that's obviously also why you and I resonate so much, and I really wanted to just go, Kirsten, please come and sit with me and let's just chat about everything that makes you you. And so, because again, you have the ability to wear so many different hats. You have the ability to literally be, create, do anything you want to do. And you are one of the most, the only word that comes into my head right now is magnificent. So I'm going to go with that. Magnificent people that I know that truly, truly, truly continually follows your own calling. And obviously, yes, I've known you for a few years now. And, just on the sideline, witnessing, having the honor to witness everything that you've been co-creating with life, both on a rational level, but also on a soul contract level, which we'll go into in a bit, is just absolutely mesmerizing. And I find you hugely inspirational. And I'm so happy that today you're choosing to dive into the hat, into that part of your psyche that identifies as the poet, because oh my God, your writing is incredible. And I'm so happy that you're really stepping forward and sharing that with the world. But before we go there, yay, let's go back in time a little bit. So Kirsten, where are you from? And yeah, where are you from? Where were you born? Who were you born into? Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, that kind of thing. A little bit of a setup.
I think that's so crucial to understand our perspectives and our lived experience, and that where we're coming from. Um, I I feel like I was so privileged to have my childhood spent in a garden with my grandmother, and she would teach me the Latin names for plants, and we'd get our hands dirty in veggie patches, but would make fairy circles on the new moon, and there'd always be little fairy prints the next morning, and tiny little glasses of hundreds and thousands, and the fairies had been, and she really introduced me to magic, and um, yeah, and although my brain doesn't work in the way that it can keep any of those Latin names, I don't know the names for flowers and things, but uh, looking back at the thread of just the simple daisy and how vital it was actually in formulating my company, my business, even what I do now, uh, maybe we can trace that through. But also in South Africa, I also spent most of my time, or my main caregiver was our maid. Her name was Sarah, and she was very much a mother figure to me. I loved her very deeply, and found it very hard actually emigrating from South Africa and having that bond removed. Um, I My grandmother paid for a private education for me in an all-girls school where, like Desmond Tutu was our governor, so he would do our assemblies on a Wednesday, and I met Nelson Mandela and was in South Africa at a time of great change when Nelson Mandela literally dismantled apartheid with a handshake on a rugby pitch, and I remember hearing the Boeing 747 or whatever fly over the city, and it just to me I was about, I think I was 10 or 11 at the time, was a way that I watched a nation reframe itself, and you know how making up a new song and a new flag could reinvent a people and bring people together. So that was hugely defining, I think, in a way that I'm increasingly coming to realize. But yeah, then living in, or having the rest of my schooling in the UK and university, and then a decade in Australia as well, where I then birthed my 3 babies over there. So, bit of context.
Wow. And you also had a brief moment in the States, right? There was a Carlsbad moment, which I know synchronizes you and I, right?
Yes. So when I was pregnant with my second child, and my ex-husband, uh, husband at the time, had a job opportunity over there. So I spent some time there. Found that actually a very lonely experience, and uh, was the first kind of time I really was aware of struggling with my mental health in being disconnected from a community. And
Mm.
so I opted to go back to Australia, where I had that kind of community of women who were supporting each other. We'd, make meals for each other, and just be that company in that, yeah, made a lonely time a very special time with young kids.
Absolutely amazing. Oh my God. So, I mean, there's so much here. So I'm just going to go practically, when did you, after Australia, when did you move into the UK then, back to the UK?
Yeah, so I was aware after both of my third child, and having moved houses while heavily pregnant and very much alone. Their father traveled a lot with work, so I was very much always a single parent, or felt like I was.
Yeah.
And so I moved back to the UK, where my parents and my brother live, for the idea of family support while
Mm.
the kids were young. And that was a really unsettling time, because even though I'd done my education here and my degree, I had built my career, and I'd become an adult in Australia.
Mm.
So the experience of coming back to the UK without a financial footprint, without references in this country, I
And without a sense of an identity as an adult.
yes,
Mm.
completely. So rebuilding that, or realizing how isolated I was in that, and also then going through a marriage relationship breakdown at the same time as trying to do voluntary work to get that, build up the references and things again. But now I understand the ADHD and all that. It makes sense to me why I didn't just volunteer anywhere. I ended up running a preschool and restructuring it, and getting up in the middle of the night to sort out, block drains. And anyway,
Right.
it really gave me again another experience of, you know, building an ecosystem, a community, and running a business. So
100%. And I'm going to pause you here because, again, for listeners and also for you as a reminder, Kirsten. So remember, before we hit that record button today, I picked out a card for you, and it's called the Cycle Breaker. And if ever there was a more appropriate card for anyone, I think it's you. So, just listening to some of your stories, from your incredible life so far, every single time, no matter where you found yourself, if something wasn't working, you literally, just like with your grandmother in the garden, pulled your sleeves up and got your hands into the soil and moved the roots around and took out the rot and reclaimed the earth, and we can see this theme throughout your life. So I know that a lot of people, if we're just talking about ADHD, would look at this very differently, but I don't. And that's what we're here to talk about today, right? Your soul, the essence of who you are, your purpose for coming to this planet is to be exactly what you've always been, and what you are sharing even louder and louder and louder these days, which is so awesome to see. You are the cycle breaker, and being the cycle breaker, having that incredible, not just innovative mind, but the passion in your bones to go out there and do incredibly hard things, things that makes you feel incredibly confused, incredibly lost, incredibly alone. And then, yes, also moments of great connection and great community. But when you are the one paving the way for everyone else, that's a lonely spot, a deeply lonely spot at times, right? Because as a human being, our basic need is we long to belong. And so, there's always this kind of contrasting experience between part of us that's like, we just want to be like everyone else. Woo. But then another part of us that's having this kind of like, that regardless of what, that belonging part wanting, or that need to belong, that voice is dimmed, that need is dimmed by this huge need. And it's not even a desire, it's not a rational thing. It's like in the depths of who you are, that is here to innovate, to recreate, to transcend, to create space, and essentially to leave the earth a much better place than how you found it. So I just want to kind of like pop in that part here, because, from where I sit, nothing happens by accident. Everything is a divine opportunity. Everything is a divine intervention. And this is just another synchronistic moment of going, hey, I know it can look like so intense, and obviously especially you've lived the experience, right? You are the living the living proof of living your life. You are the heroine of your own story. But time and time and time again, have you broken to break open incredible opportunities for everyone that's been in your field. So I just want to sort of, on behalf of the universe, we thank you, we salute you, Kirsten. And then I want to jump back to the daisy. So you mentioned that throughout your life, the daisy has been an incredible energy, connection, symbol. Maybe the way you were talking about it, it sounded like this sort of like light in the darkness, that little kind of thread, this kind of little fairy that keeps going, come over here. It's okay. We'll get you through this. It's okay. You're on the right path. Can you share a bit more about it? What is your connection?
Yeah, and it's the simplicity of the daisy, I think, that I think you
Yeah.
and I had this discussion recently.
Yeah.
There's a lot in social media about, what's your spirit animal, and,
Mm.
women as wolves and things like that. And I just said to you, don't, I think I'm like, maybe mine is like a pigeon or just something really. Um, and even the daisy, it's not the most beautiful, complicated flower, but kind of scientifically, it matters to me in that I've been drawn to the Gaia hypothesis as a way of understanding how we do co-create with the universe, that it's very much our environment that is the most important uh, thing that makes us feel safe and happy. Like I didn't feel safe in America, but I did in Sydney. Um, but James Lovelock, who wrote about, or kind of coined this Gaia hypothesis as a scientist, same guy who figured out that CFCs were what was destroying and making our planet too hot. But he explained the Earth as a whole ecosystem. And um, to explain it, he used the concept of daisy world. So imagine a world orbiting a sun-like star with only two things on it, black daisies and white daisies. So he said that black daisies would thrive in a world that started out cold because they absorb the heat, and so they would flourish in those conditions. But they get to a tipping point where actually the competition with the white daisies would balance things out to self-regulate that system. And I think it's such a divine metaphor for seeing the agency that we have as individuals who are part of a bigger ecosystem that is co-creating our reality and our lived experience. And I think it's opposite to seeing the world very much in a Darwinian way of competition and self-selection, and that somehow we need to change ourselves. I through all of the work that I've done, even when I set up one of the first international online schools before online school was kind of a concept.
Yeah, and can we just clap at that just for a moment? You did that. Yes.
With that, but even that has evolved and moved on. But at that time, I could see my son struggling with his environment of school, where he would literally escape the confines of the school building and run home to me. And he actually became physically ill in that environment. And then I was able to put him into a different setting where there was more sport and art and creative play. And when there was a snow day, they just let the kids out to slide down the hills.
I
And
love that.
suddenly there was nothing wrong with him anymore. And
Mm.
that was really my uh, what drove me to, in the midst of, as I said, my life kind of breaking apart, to create something for him that changed our environment. It meant that when I left that relationship, I created a safe space that reimagined what education was for my kids, and then ended up teaching kids all over the world and connecting them with each other. And it's just a different way of seeing. So it's not like our reality or the stuff, I could still label myself a teacher or whatever in that,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, co-creating with your surroundings, something that was previously unimaginable.
100%, 100%. And also, I mean, we both know how much we both share love of nature, right? And that nature is just, talking of teachers, such a great teacher, right? So I just repotted all our plants the other day, and it, and I was actually just sharing some really basic knowledge with my partner who didn't know this. So, I'm sure you know this, but when you see a plant, you see only, the part that's visible to us, is the part of the plant that's above the soil, right? But as big and as huge as you see the plant above the soil, just as big and as deep is its roots. And now, if you want the plant to be happy and thrive and also grow, and again, the essence of all of us is to grow, it is to expand, just like the rest of the universe, because we are the universe, right? And so if you are keeping your plant pots, your plants stuck in a tiny little pot, that again, because then timing is everything, that a year ago, it was the perfect plant pot size, right? But now it's no longer perfect. And the plant is actually dying because it doesn't have any space, right? Yeah. So it's so interesting, that thing of, again, that what was a year ago or yesterday was suited and amazing, that environment was so perfectly fitted, it's no longer fitted. Why? Because everything changes, everything always moves, and we need that movement. So just like you said, there's nothing wrong with the plant. It's not like the plant is somehow wrong. You shouldn't have been an orchid, or, there's nothing wrong with the plant. It's just the environment, and because everything is changing, that plant now needs a different environment. And
when we went, so I went on your retreat last year. Gosh, it seems a long time ago.
Oh yes, Slovenia. Yes.
But I remember you using that that example of there was a pot that when we were doing our yoga, and you said, look, nobody tells the plant like to stop growing. Like its only purpose is to grow. Like that's it. It has no other agenda. It doesn't need to be a different kind of thing. But actually it might need a bigger pot, or it might need a garden. And I'm going to show you this. I've been picking flowers, and these flowers that I have chosen to put in this little vase that my son bought me, it's the rose hips, not the rose.
Yeah.
Because actually I was cutting them off and about to just, kind of throw them away or put them in the bonfire. But they are beautiful, and it is the beauty in the ugliness of transformation that I am coming to more readily accept, and to just savor the small moments. Another thing you taught us on that retreat was just to sip your tea in the morning, and choosing raspberry this morning. I think I've even written a poem about nettle tea, but it's kind of savoring the essence of the garden in the small moments. So raspberry to me represents, well, they do have the fruit. I remember going to one of those pick your owns with my kids and actually buying one of these little plants. But I love that they're kind of spiky and they multiply quicker than you think. And I imagine them, if I had a garden, to be like a protective
Yes.
fence.
Yes. Oh, I can. I mean, when you were talking about it, I just saw exactly this whole fence of raspberry, and it's almost like you're inside a raspberry bubble, and it's just soft and bouncy a little bit, and there's this incredibly delicious smell scent in the air. I completely understand.
And I think kind of scaling an ed tech company for me was wonderful, and I learned a lot and evolved, I guess. But it took me away from nature in a way that having a I've had a deliberate career break and given myself space to
Mm.
just be, not be anything, not trying to accomplish anything other than to literally smell the rose hips.
So beautiful. And I'm going to pause you for a second because our Hoover has started doing its thing. So just give me one quick moment. I know this happens a few times a day. So coming back, Kirsten. Okay. Okay, so all incredible. And I want to touch a little bit about the fact that you said you've got the rose hip there, and it's drying out, right? And it's drying out essentially that transformation from seed to sprout to bloom to dissolving, returning back to the earth, the beauty in the dissolving, the beauty in the letting go, and how that reflects our relationship to ourselves, right? Those parts of us that we have to come to terms with, that at some point everything we have to let go. We have to let go of the different identities we've had. We also have to let go of the even our external body, right? The beauty of complete youth and the transformation of teenager into woman, into wise woman, into elder woman, and then returning to earth. And yeah, right. But just as without sounding morbid, there is so much beauty in that. And I also know, because obviously I know you personally as well, I have that privilege, honoring that and honing that aspect in. And I know it also comes out in your writing. you know I think you're, can I say the name you write under? Is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
So you're writing under the name of Lilith and Eve, right? Is that right?
Yes.
So we've
My
got this kind of,
alter
right, and we've got this contrast, and it's the honing in, it's the welcoming home all aspects within your own psyche, right? And the same way we see that reflected in nature. So it's not only the beauty of the summer garden. There's also beauty in the autumn, but there's also beauty in the winter. There's beauty in the rawness and the hardness and the barrenness and the essentially stagnantness. There's beauty in all of it, or
Well,
ugliness, like you would
it,
call it, right? Yeah.
the beauty in the dissolving, I liked
Right.
that word that you used, and also linking to your Hoover in the background, just the roles that women think that they need to play or that we have visibility of. So actually back to my time in South Africa, the idea of a woman's place and role and, the path that is kind of set for you is quite defined. I think my grandmother broke that a little bit in me in a good way because she was an artist. Her husband died when he was much older than her, and so she spent the majority of her adult life as what I saw a very strong, creative, independent woman, and yeah, and as an artist. But I think that those roles that we play, and for me, when my marriage dissolved, that identity or that measure of success, losing that to my family and friends and things was a real loss and a failure, even though it was absolutely the right thing to do. I don't think I would be here if I hadn't have had the courage to leave that. But then what for a woman, what is success? So I was really drawn to the concept of Lilith and Eve because it was a story that didn't kind of make it into the Bible. There's lots of female stories that aren't told through that narrative. And having quite a Christian upbringing, I do know those stories quite well, but I hadn't heard about Lilith. And I think she still exists in some Jewish folklore where she was the first um, human and she made Adam from her rib. And both of them were whole and complete beings, and not, I need to complete myself with a man, or it was Lilith was whole, and then was unsatisfied with Adam and decided to leave the garden. And there's ideas around her as a seductress or a temptress or a demon or you know, but actually she just thought, in my mind, she's going, well, why settle for this? I want more. What's beyond this garden, this manicured, perfect
Mm,
space?
mm,
Where are these wild places that
mm,
we can explore as women? But
mm.
I still have a part of me that's very much the Eve and sees success defined as, you know, eating the knowledge and having the knowledge, having the partnership, having the job and all of that. And I think when last year, letting go of a relationship, I think that's why does anyone come to therapy and stuff? It's generally over some heartache, isn't it? But I thought I was coming to you to let go of this connection to a man who was moving to the other side of the world and trying to have some control over that, over my heart. And I think that led me down a path that we've shared over this last year, which was totally unexpected. I wasn't it wasn't ever about love for somebody else. It was about discovering that deep, deep love for myself.
100%. And I just want to add to this, which is so beautiful, because it's that thing of, right. Um, so you thought you were coming there to get support in the letting go, and actually what happened was you came back home. You started reclaiming all of you, right? Which
Yeah.
is so powerful. And I know that, that's also the conclusion that you reached, right? Right. I remember we had this incredible moment, like not this session because it was so fast, but the previous one, where you had this incredible download. And I just remember I felt as if you were not just sitting on the earth, you were the earth, and you were drawing in from everywhere, all the different corners of the universe. You were like, and then disconnect, and it connects over here and below that and through that and beyond that. And you were like literally dancing with the timelines, collapsing these old soul contracts, and we can also in rational terms call it collapsing and rejuvenating and invigorating new thought patterns, new behaviors, new possibilities. Not only as a woman, but for all humans, right? So the collapse of the old systems, the collapse of what the stories you were told and I was told and we were all told. And again, the cycle breaker card comes up again, right? It's a cool theme for today, but also I think specifically for you. And and then I just want to sort of share. I remember, like, over the last 9 months or so, you on my couch, and you sharing that, Josie, I'm now reading these sort of oracle tarot cards. Josie, I'm now in the garden. I'm now sitting underneath the full moon. You know. Oh, okay. Sorry, we paused. I could see the screen froze for a moment. Yeah. And I remember you were kind of like, "What is happening to me?"
Yeah. And it's like, kind of be careful what you wish for. And I know there's, again, the idea of manifestation and, that we can create, like the daisies, we can
Mhm.
create our environment and our world.
Mhm.
But like you said with the plant, I don't think we can go for all the optimism and the magic of just
Mm-mm.
creating things without actually equally going right to the depths of our
Right,
darkness.
right.
And you have helped me to go to the darkest places in me, which I think is that balance where now my tree is a bit more stable, because I recognize the the duality is the wild, the dark, the shadow, with the light, the hope, the that. And when you can reconcile and hold both of those truths in you, then that's, to me, the yin yang. That's the balance. That's the wholeness that I think we're seeking, which is, yeah, it's beautiful. But that what you described there, I think it's seeing the ecosystem, like, in your mind. And when you realize you are responsible, but you are capable of co-creating with the universe, oh my gosh, it really does turn into something magical. And then stuff happens. So like you are doing this podcast because it brings you great joy. I have now reconnected with my EdTech audience on LinkedIn, and I'm just loving talking to people about really good inventions and things that make a difference to learning and life. And I didn't really have an agenda or an outcome or a business plan or anything about it, but I was motivated by, again, James Lovelock, who wrote a book just before he died at age 100. It's weird. He died on the same day that he was born. And
Oh, wow. That is full circle.
yeah.
Fantastic. Wow.
I mean, 1 in 365 chance, but still, he he wrote this book called The Novacene, and he imagined that we were, as humans, going into this new epoch where we would co-create with technology and AI to to save the planet again,
Mhm.
and that these cyborgs would be benevolent and we could design something that would actually be in the planet's best interests. So now just the joy that I'm having with that is bringing me opportunities that I never imagined. And I'm now working with schools to help them to build their own online schools, because it's back to the garden, the place, the flowers. We have to have that. We have to be grounded in place and in community in order to expand beyond that.
Mm.
So now I think the new term is, it's hybrid or high flex learning, not just online school. And but yeah, maybe it comes back down to the language that we use that gives us permission or gives us a map or gives us a poem to rewrite our stories, rewrite our environment and um, lived experience, which can be really creative and fun and magical.
100%. And I think this whole sort of thing that, and this came up for me personally the other day. I was watching this incredible adventurer. It's this guy called Bear Grylls. I don't know if you know about him.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm in love. You know, it's just he takes people out into adventure, into beautiful nature, and he, you know, very challenging experiences. But what I just love is that everyone that comes to see him, you know, they're there essentially because they know that there's so much more to life, and in terms of what they themselves have so far in life been allowing themselves to accept as true for them, not just for others, but for them. And when you see people, you know, like, yes, they do amazing wild external things, you know, like rappelling down mountains, all of that, but it's not about that. It's about what happens to them inside, right? It's about all of a sudden their brain goes, this is possible for me too, you know. And it is that thing of when you rise, we all rise. And so
Yeah.
yes, you are the cycle breaker, you are essentially a Bear Grylls. And it's just about who have you been relating to, right? And that's not going, oh, you know, Kirsten, you are above everyone else. It's never about that, but it is understanding who are you, who have you been mirroring, right? So if you grow up in an environment, it's kind of like that whole, like, the ugly duckling story. So if you don't know it, it's a Danish famous author called Hans Christian Andersen. So the ugly duckling grows up, and he or she always feels that they don't really belong, and there's something wrong with them, and they should just change everything about themselves because they're not, you know, they don't look the right way, and they don't eat the right way, and they can't fly the right way. I don't know, whatever, right? Only to one day realize that actually, you know, they could, you know, this little ugly duckling that feels so sad, so alone, and essentially is, you know, suicidal. And it goes into, it comes across a flock of swans, only to realize that actually it wasn't a duck, it was a swan, right? And it's such a simple story, but it is so relevant now more than ever before, perhaps, that we seek to always question our own sense of identity. And so if I sat here and regardless of your direct line of DNA, but I have a feeling that if we did do one on you, I have a feeling that not very far away we would have Einstein. So when you understand, whether it's Einstein or it's Juan of Arc or
Stardust, right?
and I know in the end of the day we're all interconnected, right? But it's just that understanding that, again, the environment, who are you looking up to, who are you mirroring, who are you reflecting, who are you seeing yourself in? And if you can't, and this is also to the listeners, if you can't see yourself in anyone in your immediate surroundings, regardless of whether you're blood related or not, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or with them. It just means that you've been looking in the wrong places. You've been looking you've been growing up in an environment that doesn't support your full potential, and not blaming anyone, not judging anyone, but just going, hey, you know, there is another way, and anything is possible.
Yeah, and I think it's the not just the rose tinted, but the opposite of that, glasses that we wear sometimes, because I could have last year very much put on and probably at times I did, that it was, oh my, how could all of this bad stuff be happening to me? I can't take this anymore. This is too much for one person to kind
Mm.
of deal with. But I remember a session with you and just saying that I had, whether it was a dream or a light bulb moment, but I just was right back to that, knowing in my heart of hearts what education I needed to provide for my children and what my son especially needed. And my daughter was really struggling through that. And I said to you, Josie, I need my son to go to that school. And that for, but equality that I also fundamentally believe in, and I have 3 children, I needed them to all have the same opportunity. So for me to put all 3 of them into that environment, it's literally £1 million. And it's like, how, oh, I don't have £1 million. How can, and, but reframing it, once I'd made the decision that that's what I needed, that was what my heart desired, and it was from a good place and it was right. It was literally a matter of looking at the situation in different ways of, well, now I've made the decision, I can make that possible. And I did in a number of ways, by selling my business, selling my house and pretty much everything that I owned, and then speaking very passionately in a conference in front of a lot of people, where somebody heard what I was saying and connected me with actually the perfect school for my kids. And everything just rolled after that. And it it made me feel like, my gosh, I think I can do magic, because I I did a really, really big thing. So now all 3 of my children are full-time boarding in a school that has an environment that has totally changed their realities. They are safe, they are thriving, they are full of, can do have opportunities for art and play and travel, and it just it it has changed my reality of my reality and theirs. But that was also a total letting go of everything. So for me, I then went from a stage of running a company, being a mum to 3 kids, having running a big house, being totally and utterly burnt out. And actually, while I was doing all this admin, I went in and booked my funeral. So I thought, actually I should just sort that out while I'm here, because I don't want to give the kids any admin. It was a very practical, thoughtful thing to do. And I thought, well, all my ends are tied up. No one needs me. So that was kind of a a beautiful experience now in hindsight, and I have written a poem about it and understood it through writing about it. But it gave me a very practical way to reflect on just how much beauty there is in death, in nothingness, in letting go of all of these roles and possessions and things that I was holding on to. And it was a death, I don't know, an ego death. Um, but it I can now see it very beautifully and compassionately, and I'm really excited to be in this creative space now. I don't know what happens next. I don't know.
Oh my God. I mean, you're just one of the most courageous people that I know. Again, so much in there. What I was just reminded of was that when we went to Slovenia last summer, I remember at that point you sat down, you were like, I need the million, but what happens if this and what happens if that? And then you were like, oh, I'll just create a new thing. And it was this incredible light bulb moment. And it was so beautiful because it's kind of like it's my own go-to. I always, like I've been self-employed my entire life, and whenever my brain is like, oh, but if I decided to work for just one company, then I would be safe and secure, and then I'm like, well, that's a complete illusion. Things are always changing, and also it's not right for me. It's not my environment. But the same thing as you, I always have that thing of even if everything falls apart, everything is taken away, I'll just start again. I'll just create a new thing because we're constantly co-creating. You don't just sit down by the river and go, well, that was that then, right? You keep walking, it's like, whoop, whoop, I might as well just walk into that water, right? Like you don't, like you keep on moving, and because everything is moving. So there will always be another opportunity as long as you keep on moving. I want to, again, I mean, you literally just told me that you planned your own funeral, which is a very big thing, even for me to hear. So I don't want to just like jump over that. But before that, I do want to say something. It's so beautiful how you are helping all these incredible people all around the world with understanding themselves and having incredible opportunities, both in terms of your old work, but and with work, I mean your purpose in life, just for people listening in. For me, work and purpose of life is the same thing. If you feel differently, of course, make sure you take time to do your purpose or your hobbies or your passions. Now, so you've done all of it for people all around, and also your kids, your children are such a huge part of your purpose, and they've been helping you throughout your life. I can really hear that now, when they were struggling, when this was happening, because your love of your children is so unconditional, where if it had been, just about you, there probably would have been an attachment to the outcome, and there might also have been too much fear, or there might even just have been a sense of hopelessness. But because your whole world lives and breathes in your beautiful children. And when you saw them in pain, there was nothing stopping you. It did not, I mean, I get this like fierce, raw, wild woman come up in me. I'm like, there was nothing. You were this dragon slayer, like, this is gonna work, And I think in terms of law of manifestation, the thing is we're constantly, so to manifest, if you Google it, it actually means to make clear. Manifestation means to make clear. It's to be able to see what you couldn't see before. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So then you start to sort of make, whether you consciously create an action plan or whether you just start to notice the signs, because now we've been talking about daisies. I'll see daisy all day long. It's not that they weren't there before, but now you've made it clear to me that daisies exist, and I will now see it. So when you set that intention, I want not just one of my children, but all three of my children to go to have these incredible opportunities, these incredible environments that are really good soils for their growth, right? When you set that intention, what really took place in your co-creation was that there was nothing blocking that desire from becoming clear for you. And what I mean with that was that there was no attachment, there was no story of, oh, is this a good wish? Oh, am I being selfish? Oh, is too much? Oh, this is a taboo. Oh, I might get found out. Oh, maybe I'm an imposter. Oh my God, because it wasn't about you.
Well, that's the key thing, actually. And
I
I
know.
know for a lot of women, motherhood and all that seems it's the end goal, and again, when I came to you with the relationship, there's the happily ever after, and I must have another significant other in my life in order to be a valuable, significant human. Um, and I think that's probably been from, although yes, you're only as happy as your most unhappy child. And yes, to birth a child is like taking your heart out and having it, wander around the earth and it gets stabbed and you can't even do anything because it's outside of you. So yes, 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 I feel obviously all of that for my children. But I've had this ego death experience of the last year. a realization that my children are nothing to do with me,
Yeah.
and that they like almost like I write poetry. I don't set out to go, I'm going to write a poem about Lilith. I, you know, I sit bolt upright in the middle of the night, and I can't stop it coming out of my head. And it's almost like a purging, in a way, of something, which makes it sound ugly, and sometimes it is. But with the similarities to the horror of the birthing experience too, it's a bit like that with children. You just recognizing that as a mother, or that label, or that phase of life, it's that you're just a vessel to those humans who needed to be in the world. And now that I think it's healthy to detach yourself from that role you play as a mother, and also where a lot of parents get gratification for their own egos through their children, and children have this unhealthy idea that they need to please their parents in order to be valued and loved. So I have had this weird experience in a kind of a disconnection with my children going to boarding school. So I've never, you know, I've always I did the stay-at-home mum thing, then I retrained to teach in order to stay with them and to keep them safe and to know what they were doing at every minute. But now um I don't have that same oversight, and we have fewer um much more, quality time together, where I take them for dinner and we have days out on holidays, and I make sure that every Wednesday I'm there, if around the country, watching them play their sports. And I just look at them now and, like, in awe and wonder that at the humans they are, like, I see their light and their energy beaming from them, and it it's like a s I feel separate to that. I'm nothing to do with that at
Yeah.
all. It's just that they're in an environment where they can be who they are, which is just the most beautiful thing. But it makes me, like, I'm a teacher, so I love all the children that I work with, and because they're mine, they're mine too.
Yes. No, I get that. And I love, I mean, I love this sense of detachment you're talking about. I know detachment can sound like a negative word, but for me it's one of the most beautiful things. Saying any kind of spiritual, beautiful text you read throughout time and space, the biggest thing, the biggest state of service we can do for humanity and for the planet is really to let go completely, and understanding, like you said, understanding that it is so much bigger than just you and me. And when you keep coming back to that, you can also, because again, then you're co-creating incredible momentum, because you're no longer stuck, like you talked about the ego death, right? You're no longer stuck in this narrative that goes, oh, but what if they see me? Oh, what if I do something wrong? What if people don't like me? Like, essentially, what if I die alone? But when we let that go, then it's like you can ask anything. You can ask anything, and you're detached from the outcome. You're living in this state of true channeled divine alignment. I don't really know how else to call it. This is a weird, wonderful sentence that just came out there, right? Similar to what you're talking about with the poetry or the words, or I've written 3 books. The also the first one, but mainly the last 2 are all channeled messages. I never rewrote it.
You said the
I
same
never
experience.
sat down.
Like,
Listen,
did I
it
say that?
pours. This is it. Listen, it pours out of me. But that is also, and again, we all live different lives, and there's no right or wrong way to do things. Again, for listeners out there, they're like, oh my God, things are not pouring out of me. It's not about that. But allow whatever you're feeling, allow that to guide you. Whatever literally sets your heart on fire, whatever you are passionate about, if ever there is a clear sign that is for you, then please go ahead and start that, whatever that thing is, because it is exactly that. It's this wild and wonderful energy that is untamable, undeniable, and I don't know, it came into indeemable. I don't know if you can say that, but it really is this wildness and this complete overflowing abundance of energy moving through you, and how you were just describing your children, and again, like that they are the children of the universe, they're the children of the earth, and it's not yours to hold or control. Yes, you're there, but you've completely let go of this attachment, this illusion that you have to, you have to sort of micromanage and live your life through them. They're their own gorgeous entities. Yes, they came through the vessel of your body, and you've given them endless love, and you will continue to do so. But they are souls that have chosen to come here at this moment in time, and they chose the constellation of you and your partner because that was the perfect environment for that moment in time, for that growth cycle. Again, going back to the plants, right? You take the little seed into a smaller plant pot and then baby nursery. And that's perfect for that moment in time. And then all of a sudden it outgrows that environment. And then we have to reassess and reflect, and then we have to go into a new space. And I had that thought the other day, and I always have great thoughts when I'm in the shower. So I was in the shower, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, we have to constantly outgrow our environment.
That's the
Right.
point. Yeah.
Constantly, and especially the environment of what our own minds tells us is or isn't for us. And again, not us in an egotistic way, but us in all of us, all of the planet, all of it. Because when I restrict myself and limit myself, I'm essentially limiting everyone else. Whereas when I decide to be that cycle breaker and I go out there and I share whatever it is that's in my heart, and some will love it and some will whatever, but with no attachment to outcome. When I fully do that, the way you fully do that, and that's why I obviously was like, yes, come and speak.
Mm-hmm.
Then it gives permission, just through example, for everyone else to share themselves too in whichever way is right for them.
Yeah. And it's a funny connection of words that you use there, the letting go and abundance, because I can say from my experience that is true. The scariest, most painful part is when you've outgrown that pot and your roots are all tangled up and it's really sore, and actually to get out that pot, you repot, you got to break those roots a bit, and that really hurts. But it's that's the painful bit. Once you totally let go, like really let go and let it out, and and for me that's been in a relationship, in a house, in schools, and everything, even the company that I feel like I birthed in the same way. That was my baby. It was a baby. It was something that was I identified with. It was part of my identity. And actually when I let it go, there were so many people that said, but it's you. And I had to really go, but it's not me. However, and now reinventing myself, I'm not reinventing myself, I don't know, just other stuff's kind of coming through, but there's that same thread of purpose, and I've come back into, it's educating in a different way. That's just me, and I can't
Oh my God.
but talk about it. So it's sort of letting go magnetizes abundance of what's right for you. It just comes back, like the relationship has come back, the children and the my relationship with them and their health and their all of that's come back. I've never been wealthier financially in my life, which again, unapologetically, we've spoken about this. It's like, oh, people need my advice on this, and this is now how much I charge, and they go, okay.
Right. And but what's so interesting, and let's just have a little moment about the finances, because I love the whole contracts that are involved in all of that. So when you're like in the fully letting go, we have to remember that which we are holding on to has a hold on us. That which we are holding on to has a hold on us. So that means whatever it was we cling on to, a relationship, an apartment, a business, whatever it is, and it can look very beautiful, and maybe, and I'm sure there was great beauty and great love there for a while, but whatever we are clinging to, there's a huge difference between enjoying something and having love for something freely, similar to how your relationship is now evolving with your children, right? You love them, but you're not clinging to them. You're not like, oh, I'm going to lock you inside my house to make sure that you stay here, right? I don't know why I'm turning you into an evil, right? No, you're not. Be like that sometimes. Right, exactly. But if you were clinging to your children like that, then regardless of how they would, react against that, you would actually be holding your power in that relationship. So instead of feeling like really powerful because, yeah, I have these kids, and really powerful because, yeah, I have this apartment, or I have this relationship, or I have this money, whatever it is, the clinginess that we think, the ego does it because it thinks we then are powerful. But what we're actually doing is giving all our power away. In the trying to hold on.
And limiting ourselves, yeah.
That's it. In the trying to hold on, in the ego attempt of not being in scarcity, not being alone, what we do is not only push everything away, but on a sort of energetic level, we're actually keeping our sense of identity outside of ourselves. And that again creates that sense of illusion of separation, right? And then when we finally when we let go of all those clinginess, and this is an eternal process as a human being, right? But when we, through those growing out the roots, the transformation and metamorphosis, through all of that, what we come to realize is we find a deep sense of self, sacred self, divine self. And that sense of self is constantly in connection, could never be apart from that which brought you here. And so you come to a space of equilibrium, you come to a space of peace, a space of nothingness, nothingness and fullness in all at once. It's powerful. And the same thing with your finances, right? That whole thing of the idea of, well, if I do all of this, then, oh, this is a scary place. But actually, when I've completely let go of the outcome, then there is flow, then there is movement. And when I let go of the sense of needing to have this amount or whatever it is, or knowing that this is coming in, when I completely let it go again, then things can come and will move to you because it's attracted to you. You become, everything in life is magnetic, and we're either drawn to each other or we're pushed, repelled from each other, or there's a neutral magnetism there. But you literally, and this is also why I obviously love you, you've become even more magnetic than ever before. And it is really truly through the process of the complete letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. And recognizing that there is no future state of happily ever after. And I think what I've come to realize is that it is a continual thing. It's not like, oh yeah, I figured it out and now I'm happy all the time. It's in every breath. If you think how long you have to hold your breath before you'd actually die, or I don't know, say 5 minutes. We're always 5 minutes from death. So
Right.
I can look back on that experience of, booking my funeral and going, yeah, well, that's the certainty. That's the bit I know. And so now can I be comfortable in the bits that I don't know and realize that I can play in this space, and that it's in this uncertain bit that I was so terrified of before that I've arrived, and we always continually arrive and have to remember to arrive. And, you can get right back to it just with that breath, like, oh yeah, it's just that.
Right. And I love that. And I'm sorry you're bringing this up because I think you also know that I'm a great lover of death. And so, no, but this is such an important thing because honestly, it's the one thing. And I remember this, and this is, not to sound arrogant or anything, but I remember it's a long time ago. I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I was really nervous I had this dance audition. I was crazy nervous. And all of a sudden I was like, hang on a second, Josie. It's highly unlikely you're going to die from doing that audition. And if you don't get the job, you probably won't die at all, either. And anyway, we're all going to die at some point. So shall we just try to not stress about that thing? Like this is such a minute thing, a little dance audition, or if someone out there is listening and, you've got a big interview coming up, or, you're really wanting something specific to happen, whether that's someone calling you, telling you that they love you, or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're going through in life right now. But really coming to terms with the one thing no one ever wants to talk about, and we're always pretending doesn't happen, but it happens to all of us. And so really starting to have an open conversation, at least within yourself, and embracing the fact that we cannot take anything for granted. Life is incredibly fleeting, and perhaps it's the fleetingness that makes it so beautiful. And maybe we can call it, yes, it's unknown, but also thank fucking God it's unknown what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, all of that, because then there is mystery, then there's something that keeps pulling us in because we don't know what's around the corner. And perhaps that's also part of why we continue to get out of bed. So there's always a flip side, right? And also demystifying. So I love the mystery, but also stepping into the beauty of the letting go, sitting with the uncomfortable emotions, sitting and allowing ourselves to, whether you do it under the full moon and whether you use tarot cards or not, but whatever it is, that part within yourself that you've been trying to run away from, if we can almost look at it as a dream. So in those dreams where you feel as if someone is running after you, or there's a thief in your house, and like that kind of like it's unknown and I'm scared. Well, have you ever tried turning around inside of your dream and facing that which was coming to get you? Because what's quite interesting is when you do that, usually it doesn't have power over you anymore. It's like, right? It's like that which you were so scared of, whether that was the thief, or whether that was a big giant or a scary animal. When you turn around and you actually face it head on and you go, come here, like, come and get me then, right? Whatever it is, usually it shrinks, it dissolves, because fear and shame and anger, well, not anger, but fear and shame needs places to hide. And when you're catching them out, when you're going, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
I see you. It's almost like a funny movie, like a scary movie where the ghost all of a sudden goes, oh God, we got found out. I better wear a better ghost costume next time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even in very practical, like real life situations, it's like selling my house. I thought that would signify failure. That's oh my God, but you have to have, you're 40 years old, you need a mortgage and a house and a blah. And I sold the house. And it's not a bogeyman anymore. It's now a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment that I can lock up and go and travel and see the kids. And I've got money to take them on holiday and see different places and work from different spaces. And so the scariest thing has been the most exciting, thing. And even people go, oh, minimalism would be good. It would be good to have less stuff. I struggle with decision making and sometimes navigating around the city. I have agoraphobia, so sometimes I have panic attacks on public transport. I've been in situations like that, even getting to you. But simplifying my life in a way where I go, no, actually, I'm only going to buy this favorite jumper in 5 colors, and I'm only going to have 20 pieces of clothing, and I am going to live differently. There isn't a script for this, but you can create it. But I'd also say that in that fear of the uncertainty and that void that comes from letting go, is to, when you work out how you self-soothe, so not how you escape that and look for distractions in other people, in other things, or setting up businesses even, but you sit with yourself. That's where I realized that I had a voice in writing, and that when I felt overwhelmed or scared or lonely, to write it out, to make sense of it through metaphors and imagined gardens in in the sky. That kind of has translated into me really rediscovering my purpose, and now building schools in the cloud, reimagining what learning spaces can be. And that doesn't, I don't know that would have come to me if I hadn't let go of what I was clinging so desperately to. So yeah, it's hard to jump off the cliff where you don't know where you're going to land. But if you have gone to that point where you're not, you've looked at death, I guess, and then you go, okay, that's where we're all headed. That's equality for you.
Mhm.
What can I do while I'm here? And
Right.
maybe I can play.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I mean, I love all of that so much. I want to ask you, Kirsten, so what, not what's next, but what's in your heart now, Kirsten? So what do you dream of unapologetically? So the same way, if you were, if the universe or the soul was going to speak on behalf of you, what is longing to emerge through you? What do you want unapologetically? Anything at all. So kind of similar to how you were like, okay, I need this amazing school for my, originally from the one child, and then like, hang on a second, no, no, for all three children. And there was not a tiny part of your brain that went, oh no, that's too much to ask for. So if we get into that same space, so when you look and you feel into your life with as a woman you are right here, right now, what do you dream of? What do you want?
Ah. Oh, I think I lost you for a second. Am I
Yes,
back?
you lost me. Okay, you're back. So I was just
Yeah,
asking, so
exactly.
unapologetically, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Unapologetically, what
yeah.
do you dream of? What is emerging through you? And honestly, like I really, really invite you to speak as loudly as you can about your desires. I did a whole little podcast a few weeks ago about, I can't remember. There was a nice rhyme in there, but it was essentially just going, name your desires to claim your power. We cannot expect to manifest, to attract, to create XYZ if we are not even allowing ourselves to think it and talk about it openly and freely. So for instance, I did my little New Year's manifestation, and I don't know if I told you about it, but I did that on New Year's Day, and it was beautiful with an old teacher of mine. And at the end of it, he was like, "And now, you're bringing in, you're visualizing what this new year." And all I was like, I want more sex, I want more money, I want more love, like, and I could just hear it, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good." And then I had like a little moment of laughing at myself because I was like, "Hee hee hee," because my teacher is quite old school, and he's very much like, "Oh, and I'm there like, "Wow."
Like,
Yeah, and it felt so great to really claim it and be like, oh, I don't feel ashamed of this. Again, this is where I'm at right here, right now. In a week from now, I might want something different, but I will no longer stop myself from actually voicing what it is I'm truly wanting.
yeah,
And again, no attachment to it, but at least
yeah.
voice what it is you're wanting. And so that was a few things for me. There we go.
And I love that, and it is that little female voice in
Mm,
that expression of desire and
right.
the narrative that we are sharing, and why I feel passionate about talking openly about these things on any kind of platform, because I think especially as AI and our digital presence kind of becomes more fused with our
Mm,
real selves, it is a great platform and a privilege to be able to share the stories, the muck, the mess, the loneliness, the desires. And I'm the same as you. Like, actually, a lot of the what I'm writing about is erotic poetry and the
yes.
desire for more, for an abundance in experiences, in different kinds of relationships, in experiencing different parts of the world and parts of myself, and then and sharing that and talking about that. And even talking to my son the other day, and he said, "Oh, yeah, mum, how's work going?" And I told him that I'm talking to a playwright about putting this idea about Lilith and Eve on stage. And he was like, "Mom, you're so crazy. Like, what kind of crazy idea is?" And then he said, "But I've known," he's 15 and a half now, and he said, "I think you know, I've watched what you do and what the outcomes are. You do you, mum. You do you." It's crazy indeed. But that's I and what I have so my biggest dream is abundance, unapologetic
Mm,
abundance for myself.
right.
If I can manifest £1 million, then like what else can I do?
Yes.
So and I've seen the transformative effect that letting go has had on me, my lifestyle, and now what that's facilitated for my kids. And
Mm,
now I want that for more kids, and
right.
to help, well, either through the narrative or just living it, just like you. It's
Mm,
by watching you upgrade your apartment and ask for things, and to talk about money and talk about sex and talk about these things that make the human experience very human. So living that, but also teaching others how to do that for themselves.
Right.
I don't want to do the doing. I don't want to
Yeah.
get into the muck of everybody else.
Mhm.
But I want to inspire through sharing a story that
100%.
the the equalness is the light and the dark, and accepting that in yourself.
I absolutely love that. And you know what? I think you just answered, which was going to be my final question, which was going to be if there was just one message you would like to share with humanity, what would it be? I think you just did it. But if there's anything else, because I know you are a magician, you are a gorgeous witch, you're a beautiful alchemist with your words. So if there's any any final words without being too final, if there was one
Well,
message, yes, darling,
Well, and maybe
go
to
on.
borrow my children's words, they talk a lot about, main characters and main character moments. And I think recognizing that we are all the main character in our experience of the universe, and we are co-creating with the universe, and everybody's individual experience is as valid and as worthy to be experienced and expressed as anybody else's. And in that way, we can stop the competition, stop seeing things as either good or bad or evil or
Mm,
whatever.
mm.
It is, we are part of that ecosystem that is experiencing the universe through our creative selves. And that might sound quite lofty and godlike, but we're creators. And to just embrace your inner creative goddess or god, I guess.
Yes. Oh my God, I loved it so much. And I mean, absolutely 100%. And that same thing of, I really love this whole like, there is no competition. And so, you know, whatever we do it for everyone else too. You know, when you walk forward into the darkness of the night, you actually just, you know, you shine your light, you know, and everyone else go, oh my God, it's not so scary being out there in the dark. Oh, let's all do it. Let's have a little stargazing trip. You see, like, it's never just for you. And
Yeah.
it is never,
And
yeah.
actually, just pick up on that last comment is this concept of postmodern morality.
Mm.
Because when you really accept and understand that we're part of the ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
you can't you then can't actually do something evil or bad because you only hurt yourself. So that recognition means that we can take a lot more ownership and agency over our values and our morals, because to have a sustainable environment that is a beautiful place to live with its good, bad, ugly, blah,
Mm.
that's the messy human experience that we're all here to get fully involved with. So to just unapologetically live is, yeah,
No,
exciting.
100%, 100%. In the same way that in all the stories of all of times, we need to have the monsters. We need to have I'm going to call it a cycle breaker. We need to have the people that come in and they're challenging. They're challenging, right? Whether you call that right now, the evil witch or the evil magician or the evil whatever, we're going to classify it as an evil. But actually, without the evil, without those life opening moments, without those challenges, the hero, the heroine wouldn't recognize their own strength. Like they just wouldn't, right? And so again, when we're looking at it from that higher perspective, it's like, well, then there is no evil, because every single thing has, however challenging it was, it helped you to awaken something within you that then awakens something in everyone else around you too. And so it is that yin and yang, and there really is, you know, we are all needed at this moment in time, and we are always helping to reawaken. We can also call it a trigger. We're always here to trigger one another to wake up, to awaken to our greatest potential of that potent moment. And then through that, new us, new versions of you and me and all of us are stepping through and interlinking and merging through and co-creating. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're not so scared of having the painful experiences. So
Right.
go ahead and get your heart broken and start a business and write a book and just do it.
Yay! I love that. Oh my God. Wise words from the gorgeous Kirsten. Kirsten, it's been a joy. It's such an honor. Always so good to see you. Sending you so much love. I cannot wait to see what emerges through you next. But whatever it will be what is exactly needed to set everyone free. So thank you so much, Kirsten. I'm going to stay on the line after I close. I just want to say goodbye officially here. And bye to the listeners. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.